Welcome to both sides of the conversation. Thank you for joining us for our Sunday chat. We meet here in this virtual space every Sunday at 2 p.m. I am your guest co-host, Danielle Tompkins, and your co-founders and founders of both sides of the conversation. And my co-hosts for today are
John Henry, co-founder of both sides of the conversation.
Thank you. And I was going to go ahead and read today our community standards. So both sides of the conversation is providing a safe and honest space for open conversation. Please be respectful of that. Be respectful of the panelists, hosts, and participants. Healthy debates and conversation are encouraged. Don't personalize anything with anyone. Name calling, bullying, trolling, or shaming will not be allowed here. Your perspective is yours. It's not a prescription. You don't have to agree, but please show respect. We are creating an open forum and dialogue for healing and education. So thank you again for joining us. For those of you that are joining us on Facebook, you can go to our page or our group and leave your questions or comments there. For our panelists, please make sure you mute your mics when you're not speaking. We also are on YouTube. So we have a YouTube channel, Both Sides of the Conversation. You can go there and subscribe. Thanks and have a great show.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for that introduction. Sorry for our introduction audio issues. Still working out a lot of these bugs for this new platform. Looking forward to today's conversation. Should be very, very interesting. A lot of the sisters out there, I know they was waiting for some of the fellas. It looks like some of the fellas heard the message. We have a few fellas on today. If you guys would like to get involved with this conversation and interact through the chat, you can make comments through our YouTube and our Facebook page. If you are in our Facebook group, you will not be able to have the live interaction. So please, if you're in our group and you want to interact and you want to give a question to the people on the panel, you have to go to either our Facebook page or you have to go to our Both Sides of the Conversation YouTube channel, and then you could participate in the chat. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and start opening this thing up. Before we get started, I wanted to just say last week was phenomenal. A lot of information. Hopefully today we could get closer to the resolutions and some of the things that people need to hear to make them feel validated and what their expectations is from our sisters and brothers. So we're going to start off today. I'm going to let the sisters start. We do got some brothers here today. So I'm going to let Brandy, Danielle, and Akeisha start off today. What we wanted to hear at the end of the segment last week, we didn't get to finish, was what is it that our women actually want when it comes to this dating thing, relationships? uh what is it that you want? And I know you guys touched on it a little bit, but I think the fellas is here now to respond, and people in our chat will start getting in. But we want to know, the man in the community, as we're trying to build these relationships, get back into this dating realm, we would like to know, honestly, from our women, how does men pull ourselves up to you guys' standards and expectations? What is it that you are actually looking, so the men out there can hear what our sisters is looking when we involve ourselves in this dating realm? So with that being said, I'm gonna open it up to Akeisha, Brandy, and Danielle. Whoever want to start, we can start there. And fellas, mute your mic. Everybody that's not speaking, if you could just mute your mic into the person, stop speaking, so we don't get a lot of feedback and we can actually hear what's going on, and make sure that everybody's hearing what's being said clearly. So, Akeisha, would you like to start?
I can. Well, hi everyone. I had a little problem with my audio, so I missed the intro. I apologize about that. Honestly, I missed last week's show, so I'm interested in hearing from Brandy and Danielle, so I can catch up to the conversation if y'all don't mind.
Danielle, did you want to bring her up to speed?
Sure. So some of the things that we mentioned last week, a couple of the ladies have brought up, it's definitely just a good all around brother, but finances were one of the big things that kind of came up too. And I know there was a dispute between, just how much. Somebody had brought up 100K. I know I had mentioned not that much, but only because we really want someone who is stable. And that is definitely hard to find. Stable and self-sufficient. And that's not necessarily easy to find in the Bay Area. So yeah, that can definitely be taxing on a woman to deal with that. And that's definitely where we see the baggage coming on our part. There's also a big conversation about the alpha male versus the beta male and what people want. It seems like some men were saying, hey, women like the beta men. And a lot of women were saying, no, we like alpha brothers. But they were saying in our communities, there aren't a lot of alphas. There's a lot of betas. And so that was a big, topic too, point of discussion. But definitely mention alpha males are definitely really what a lot of the lady wants. But it seemed like the fellas were saying, hey, that's kind of hard to find, due to circumstances. Yeah. So just a couple of things we mentioned in hot topics.
So, Akeisha, did you want to jump in there?
Well, I know Brandy was here last week too, so I want to hear what she has to say.
Okay, go ahead, Brandy. Brandy wanted 6 feet tall, brother. 6'2". Let's see if we can get Brandy mic working. I think she faded out. Let me see. Brandy, could you hear us? I think she had to log out and come back in. I think she's breaking up.
Okay. All right. Well, I understand the technical difficulty. All right. So thank you for reviewing that for me, Danielle, just to bring me up to speed. I feel, please forgive me, everyone. I didn't look at the recording of last week's show. I am kind of catching up from an interesting week myself. Honestly, what I personally am looking for in a man is somebody who is courageous. And when I say courageous, I really mean courageous enough to allow his heart to speak for him, and that he knows it's okay that he allows his heart to be seen by me as a woman. What I find, and it's difficult, right? I find that a lot of men do not want to open up their hearts to a woman until he knows that he's safe with her. But a bit of the the rub around that is for a man to really get a woman he has to open up his heart for her to really connect with him. And so what I mean, open up his heart, I mean, like, talk about the things that he dreams about doing. Talks about, what is it that makes him want to be with her or be interested in her? It's interesting to hear that there's a conversation about alpha and beta, because I just learned a little bit about what that is, as far as how it works in canine, because it comes from canine relationships. And what I've found is courageous and confident. Yeah, all right. Yoma Jesse, what's up? Good to see you. In canine, the alpha dog is the dog who is the protector over the pack, right? Not necessarily the person who's eating first and telling everyone what to do, even though that is what the alpha does. The purpose of the alpha is actually the servant of the rest of the pack, right? So an alpha male is the kind of man who knows that his role is to serve the family, and that what he's there for is to identify resources, the direction, guidance, so that the rest of the pack is kept intact and they're going towards what's best for the pack. The beta of a canine pack, the idea is the beta is the backup support of the alpha. It doesn't mean that the beta is not as strong. Actually, the role of a beta is to really empower the leadership of the alpha, right? Because the beta doesn't necessarily have, the get up and go that the alpha has to do what the alpha does. And then you have the omega, and the omega has a really important function. The omega is almost like the comic relief, right? The omega is what's going to come in and detract from any kind of danger, so that the rest of the pack can move forward and do what they need to do. And then the pack will go back and get the omega. So, all of these different positions within canine packs, they have very important roles. But I think when we talk about those kind of things, respectfully, we don't really know what we're talking about. So people just say stuff, but they don't really know what that means. They don't really know what that means for them. And I don't think that a lot of people know what it means as far as where it comes from and where the language is coming from. But, for me, I know this. I don't necessarily mean to be alpha as a woman, but I'm alpha because I'm looking to serve, right? I'm really looking to serve my own family as best as we can to direct us. I'm looking to serve my own community the best as I can to direct us. So I end up fulfilling an alpha type of role. And, what that means is for a man, I need to have somebody who's not necessarily intimidated that that's the role that I have. So that's what I would say. Can't hear you, John.
I'm not sure. I think Brandy's trying to get back in, but it seems like she's not there yet. She's having some struggles to get on. So we're going to go ahead. Since you made that point, let's go ahead and jump in. Let's see what Javier has to say about his thoughts of what the woman asked for, and then articulate what is man looking for from a male's perspective. Javier, if you could start off with that, and then Barry, and then we just go get the conversation rolling.
Cool. All right. Thank y'all for having me. I'm glad to be here. So I would say, what are men looking for? I think most of us are looking for just the affirmation piece. I think it's hard being a black man in today's society. It's hard being a righteous black man in today's society. And so to have I think, what does someone say, that when you get married, your money gets better? And so I really believe that that women have that amazing ability to breathe life into men, even more than what they think they have. And so at the end of the day, when I come home, or the last person I talk to, I want them to be my biggest cheerleader and the biggest person that holds me to my accountability, aside from myself. If no one else tells me the truth, then I expect my mate to be that one to do it. So I believe words of affirmation are huge. I think it's everything.
All right, Barry, you want to jump in there?
Um, I I was just talking to a brother about his relationship, and he is an alpha man. Like I've known him for about 15 years, a little over 15 years. I know him as an alpha man just by how he handles himself. And but when he gets into a relationship with a woman, he's a puppy. You know, he's I don't want to say he's a puppy. He's a good man. He's what every R&B song is about. He's what every romantic movie is. Even the women that he doesn't know, this man will bring flowers to a woman on her job just because he knows that she works a shitty job and probably doesn't have much to look forward to when she gets off. He'll bring her flowers or he'll bring her lunch. He's that kind of guy. The problem is that he gets into a relationship with a woman who looks at that as a weakness. And because of how he is programmed, raised by a single mom, he looks at it as just him doing what he has to do to love his woman, to let his woman know that he's there for her. But in his relationship, he becomes a beta, what's quote unquote called or identified as a beta male. Somebody he doesn't have a voice. He's just there to help with the bills. He takes all kind of abuse, verbally, emotionally, and he's still scratching his head, wondering, what do I do to change this kind of thing? And unfortunately, a lot of men, I think, are in that position where we have we have really good intentions. We want to lead our family, and we want to have a family and be that that positive figure for our family. But what we have to contend with are images in the media, images in our community that show us what a man should look like or alpha man should look like and how he should behave. So when we're not this, sometimes our women become this. And when that happens inside the home or inside our relationships, that's when a man can become emasculated. He can get discouraged, and all kind of negative things happen within him because in his mind, he's just trying to do what's right. But what he's battling is these outside, images on what he should be. And I think as men, sometimes we have to just remind each other and uh, and keep each other accountable. Like, man, you are a king. You are strong. It doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. Stay in your lane and do you. Because if we don't grow up with that kind of message, it's hard to get. I mean, it's easy to get caught up in the mix. But that's all I got to say on that alpha male thing.
That was powerful. I like what you said about that. I like what everyone had to say, and something that came to mind that I was thinking is damaged individuals come from damaged families a lot of times. So a lot of times we're growing up in families, or some people have been growing up in families where maybe they haven't experienced love or how to treat people, or if they are growing up in a loving, nurturing family, maybe their relatives didn't prepare them for how to respond to the way others treat you. But a lot of it really does start at home. Sometimes if you're in a home where you're taking a lot of abuse, whether you're male or female verbally, and that could come from your mother being stressed, or it could come from the father or lack of, but you're accepting this abusive type of treatment, and it's not balanced, it's not correct, and then you go on in your adult life and that's a carryover. And so we carry these, a lot of our childhood traumas are carried into these relationships, and a lot of people don't have haven't we talked about it last week too, sought therapy for that. A lot of people are damaged individuals, or maybe don't even know that till they get into the relationship, just how kind of damaged they are, and they take this trauma with them. So just as you said, that man you were describing that, is a puppy and maybe accepting that abuse, that definitely happens to the ladies as well. And it's not to minimize a man's experience at all. But, there are women who are nice and sweet and get stumped around and cheated on, and, men act a fool on them as well. So, good people. Another thing that came up last week is, it's happiness. And something I brought up is happiness starts within. That happiness and that wholeness and that self-love starts with you. And a lot of times in relationships, we are looking to, skid on the outside or give something we're not getting in return. So we have to, damage people produce damaged relationships. So yes, something that came up, and I would still like to say is we got to work on us.
Can I add something? Oh, can you all hear me? All right.
Yep.
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm speaking in turn. It's funny what you said, Danielle, just reminded me of a quote from the Eckhart Tolle book, A New Earth, where he says, the purpose of a relationship is not to make you happy. The purpose of a relationship is to elevate your consciousness. Right. And that speaks to what Javier was saying, is that, what he's looking for is a woman to affirm where he's at and to affirm that, he's on track and on target. There's a book that I read in 2019 that I thought about when you were talking about books. The title of it's called Getting the Love You Want, by a therapist relationship coach named Harville Hendricks. And what he talks about in the book, and he works with his wife on a lot of work, he says this: what people are doing when they partner up, specifically when they partner up with people in a marriage type of relationship, even if the people don't officially get married, common law relationships or long-term relationships are pretty much marriages. But what people are doing when they partner with those people is that they're looking to recreate their parental relationship so that they can fix it. Right. So women are going to choose a man that's like their father, whether they mean to or not. Men are going to choose women who are like their mother, whether they choose to or not. And, in homosexual relationships, it's whoever is the feminine energy or the masculine energy in that relationship. They're still going to look to recreate that relationship, because what they're doing is trying to correct it. And what most people do, instead of correcting it, is they just replay it. So, the work that you're doing in a marriage relationship is really to elevate one another's consciousness so that you can heal whatever wound was inflicted on you from childhood. So I just thought about that with what some people were saying.
All right, I think we got Brandy back. I think her camera is up. Or let's see if it's her mic working. You want to jump in there, Brandy?
I don't know what's going on over here. It is a struggle today. I'm sorry. I don't even know where we left off.
Well, I think they was trying to ask you last week, what did men want? I mean, what did women want? That was the start, and then we kind of jumped into the alpha beta thing. We know you want a 6 feet tall brother, 6'2", slim build, 12-pack, 6-pack, running track, dunking, and everything. But we want to hear your perspective of, what is it that women want, and you can speak from your perspective, because we also need men to hear from you guys to help start the work. It's like, what is it that really women want when they're trying to date and meet people and things of that nature?
I think everybody has their own flavor. I've been married for 7 years, so I don't know how the dating scene is going on with you, but my girlfriend, a man that thinks himself, you can't possibly be with yourself. You shouldn't be able to care yourself. How are you going to provide for family, or even move with that next level, even getting married, if you can't physically take care of yourself? No woman wants a bum. I'm sorry, but they don't. When I was dating, I don't think I even looked at a lot of the things that women are asking for now. I mean, most women are holding it down by themselves, but it's helpful to have that extra mate with you that can carry a household, be a leader of the household. So I think a lot of times women are just looking for someone that is stable, and that is not a needy because nobody wants to fix a man. I shouldn't have to fix you. We too grown for that. 42 years old, and my girlfriends are the same. I don't have time to fix you. You should already be established before you even consider dating. So, pretty much.
So you broke up a little bit, but I heard what you said, and I revert back to the question last week that I posed to Danielle, and one of the questions is, so when women say they just want a man that can take care of himself and be stable, so maybe the guy that works at Target or Costco's or the security guy, his lifestyle for him is stable. But I think that's where the distinction comes in between stability and the security that women need, right? Because maybe he's living in an in-law, he's going to work, he's able to maintain for him for what he needs for the lifestyle that he is, but he's not able to provide the security and the financial means that the woman needs. And I think that's where the conflict comes in, right? Because your stability for what you're looking for versus the stability for that person may be two different outlooks. So how do we fix that? Because that's what I was asking Danielle last week when she was saying, well, it don't have to be six figures. But see, we hear women say that all the time. You don't have to be a six-figure earner. But again, if this guy's making $40,000, $50,000 a year and he's able to financially take care of himself, meaning he can pay for the housing that he's living in, feed himself, be able to do the things that he needs to sustain so he doesn't actually need you. But once he comes in twined with you, now the expectation or the standard is I need X, Y, and Z. And maybe that's out of his realm.
Can I speak to say something about that? So usually, I mean, think about it realistically. When couples get together, the big question is, how are we going to divide the finances, right? So a lot of women think, and I know when a couple gets married, that man is now supposed to take care of the rent. Not all the time, but a lot. A lot of women think that. When I look at marriages, and when my parents got married, marriages I know that are still around, that's what the man did. So he transferred from financially taking care of himself and supporting a roof over his head to doing that for his family. And the woman's role, at least in my experiences, what I know, was to spend money and to take care of the children, as well as some other expenses, maybe for the household. And so, however you choose to split is however you choose to split. But I think a lot of women are saying, if, and here's the thing, let's be realistic. I mean, if you're making $13 an hour, can you sustain yourself in the Bay Area, right? So you got to be making a little bit more, doing fairly good just to live in the Bay Area and support yourself. But that's not across the board, right? Because if you met someone and they lived out of state, they lived in Texas, or they lived in Kentucky, Louisville, Kentucky, and they could work a full job at Walmart or something and be self-sufficient and things like that and have their own place. I mean, it does happen in other places. But this is not one of those cities and areas where that's not necessarily likely to happen, right? So I think that you're just looking for somebody, when things transfer over, that can still support the family in that way. Because if not, and there's a split down the middle, I think a lot of women feel like they're still going to have to carry most of the load. So if we're combining incomes and everything is split financially down the middle, women are saying what we're expected to do is still going to be more, because we have to go and work just like you, 9 to 5, come home, cook the food, take care of the kids. And that's where we feel like it's going to be kind of taxing on us. So people have to talk about what that equality looks like in their relationship to them. But I'm just giving you a general idea of what a lot of women are saying that 50-50 financially looks like, and it's still a burden unless they're willing to take care of more of that load, and maybe to them that looks like less of a stress. But even if it's still a lot of the load, a woman still seems to have a full-time job in a relationship, and is being pulled on, just like mommies get pulled on. There's just a lot of expectation of women. We just don't want the big headache with the finances too.
Well, it sounds like to men, when you guys say that, women want everything and men want nothing. Just being honest, because it's like it's a difficult challenge. So again, to speak to what Danielle is saying, and Javier and Barry, I want you guys to jump in, especially here in the Bay Area. The cost of living is very, very, very expensive. It is very hard for a single family, let alone a person with kids, just a single person living in the Bay Area and date, right? So now it's all about like, how do we be realistic? And this is what I'm talking about to the ladies about being realistic. If we look at this Bay Area living, and yeah, across the country, Atlanta and South Carolina, the financial circumstance is totally different. But here is very unique. So when do we, as men and women in the Bay Area, we're here in the Bay Area, there's more of an advantage of women to make more earning potential than men, right? So we already know this, but this is sometimes the confusion or the misunderstanding that men deal with is women understand this. There's definitely a financial advantage for the women in the Bay Area than it is for our males. How do we close
Can
that
you
gap?
can you say how so? I don't understand what you're talking about when you say that. How so?
So if you look at the Stanford report, black women are earning more in yearly salary than black male. They put out this survey that Stanford did. So our black women are earning more per capita per dollar an hour wages versus our male counterparts. Was that clear, or did I confuse you?
Sorry, look, I'm looking up the report because I don't know what you're talking about.
Can I
All
respond to
right,
something real quick?
go ahead, Barry. Jump in there while she's looking up the report.
And so I hear that a lot, and I'm not responding to anyone in particular. What I'm responding to is the the message that I'm not going to support a man, and I get that because when I was a teenager, I grew up in the Bay. I grew up in Frisco. We had groups in the Bay. Who was it? Somebody came out with a song, break a hoe, something like that, make a hoe, mac a hoe, crack a. I think it was RB Hitman or somebody, and then we had these songs that talked about like literally milking women for money, like trick them into a relationship, milking for money. I have friends that were doing that, and you know, again, growing up and looking at what the models are before you or around you and what the culture is, I understand why women are now at that point. It's like, wait, I had to work hard to get what I got. I'm not about to give it all to you or hand it over or support you while you do nothing, buy you a new PlayStation and now you can front with your friends on. Nah, I'm not doing it, and I get that. um but there, and that message, I'm not going to support a man, is for a certain, it's not even for a man, it's for a boy. The message I would like to hear from the sisters is, I'm not going to support a man, but um and it's not to soften the message or anything to men. It's to say that I'm not going to support a man who's not about nothing. But if that man is about something, I'm going to help that man if I can. I'm going to help him start his business. I'm going to help him go to school. I'm going to help him just like I would want or like somebody helped me. Because a lot of our sisters did not do it alone. But when we see our people, and men do this too, black people do this for some reason. People of color do this for some reason, and maybe it has to do with oppression. But when we get into positions of power, we then become the oppressor. So in our relationships now that take a bus driver, not a bus driver because they make cool money. Take a security guard that's working in the Bay Area, for example, making $20 an hour. He's just making enough to barely take care of himself. Don't even throw kids in there. But now he meets this sister who is beautiful. She looks at him and sees him in a security guard uniform and doesn't want to have nothing to do with him. Why? Because she knows that his paycheck is never going to amount or keep up with her lifestyle. That's cool. That's fine. But how is it okay now for us to look at the outside and judge the outside and say, nope, I'm not going to do it when it comes to my people, when it comes to continuing to being pro-black and continuing our culture and our families, our legacies. And it's all about, but now it's because it's all about the money. It that right there is a detriment to our family. If we make it about the money, then we are in essence destroying our families.
I think that's a good point. I see some of the people coming in. Keisha, I think I sent you a YouTube video, but I think it's the wrong one. I got to send you the other one, but I think that's one of it that highlights the wealth disparities. But let me pull it up while I get everybody going. Brandy, you
Yeah,
back up? Is your mic
I'm
working?
gonna tell you, John. I'm doing quick research, and thank you for what you shared, Barry. From what I'm looking at, that's not what the reporting is saying for 2020. Right now, it says that Black women earn less than anybody in the United States of America. But I want to see your reports.
Versus black men. Look at the one for the black man, not against among the other races.
I'm looking at
Okay,
everyone.
okay.
I can share my screen, but the reason why I'm challenging you on that, and this is kind of what we were talking about one-on-one, is that there's common language that's used that's not actually based on data, right? Like I was saying before about alpha. Someone said in the chat box that alpha is a masculine thing. It's not. Again, alpha, beta, omega, these are all gradients of behaviors, and it comes from canine theory. And really, there are alpha females in canine packs, right? And they are females, and they're still the alpha of the whole pack. It's not necessarily having to do with gender, right? And it's just that the society that we live in, our language attributes alpha to masculinity. But that's the language, that's the language that we get from the European languages, right? Like depending on what language you're talking about, it changes still, but it's kind of a understanding that alpha is masculine when alpha isn't necessarily masculine. Alpha, just like I was saying before, is about the leader, the head that's taking care of the pack. But like I was saying, it looks like that might be something that people say. I'm looking at something, and I did real quick research, and looking at it, it does comparative analysis of all different kind of racial groups, and it keeps showing that Black women earn less than Black men. Black men are close to the lowest earners, definitely, but it says that Black women are making less from what I'm looking at, and that's just quick research.
So I'm gonna give you the facts and the data that I'm gonna give you straight up from all the guys that I'm around in the barbershop. 90% of those guys that I talk to, their girlfriends, their wives make more money than them. So we're just gonna keep it to a base by base. Javier, Barry, if you guys can contest to that, anybody in the chats, tell me how many of your male friends are in the barbershop, or the brothers and sisters you know, family members, how many of those black men earn more than their wives? If y'all could put that in the chat, because I know it's very small. I'm around these brothers. Every brother I know that I talk to, their girlfriends or their wives make more money than them. So it might sound like it's delusional. Y'all help me out in the chats. My brothers, tap in, because I know we around the brothers, and I know most of the brothers I know, and they are some good earning brothers, and they doing some amazing things. But typically, the women that they are with make more money than them. So I'm just gonna throw that out there.
What's the problem then? If they're in a relationship and the men you know earn less than their women and they're in a relationship, now what are you saying the problem is then?
I don't think I think it should be a thing where I'm cool with sisters making more than, but I'm cool is look, we shouldn't be making more, nobody should be making more than anybody. I'm just saying if they're in the same field doing the same thing with the same credentials, it there shouldn't be a thing where somebody is making more. They did that way back when, and it separated white families. You saw how that happened. So with us and how they're doing with us right now, or trying to do with us right now, is the same thing that they did back in the day. It's like, let's separate the family by putting this woman in a position where she can win, and let's put this man in a position where it's a little bit harder for him, because now she's seeing how we do it. We got her next to us, and she can see how we get down as bosses. So she takes that mentality. Not all of them, not all of y'all. I'm just saying some women take that mentality and they say, look, I'm a boss now, I only associate with bosses. Yeah, but you wasn't always a boss, and it took work for you to become a boss. And I'm pretty sure that if you could look at a man, I'm going back to my example earlier, that's working a security job, well, who's to say that that man can't run his own company one day if he had the same kind of help or same kind of, leg? And so it just goes to say, like, no, we should not be looking at that as a guideline for, or as a deal breaker for relationships. And if we can break away from that and start looking at healing each other and how we can help heal each other, not make each other money. because that, like Danielle was saying, has a lot to do with where you live at.
Can I ask you this though, Barry? And I want to ask everyone, did you grow up in a household where your Black father was there for you, whether he was in the home or not? Was his contribution to you in your life growing up equal to your mother's financial contribution? Did your mother carry on the financial burden more so than your father, or was it 50-50, or did your father carry because that's gonna play out a lot in our relationships in our lifetime. Because if a woman is, or you're used to being raised in families where the mother's financial contribution was more, and it was a struggle for her because she had, the kids, and it was a financial burden, then that's going to change maybe that young girl's outlook on something. She's going to look up and go, wow, my father didn't do a whole lot. It was all on my mom. And I don't want a man like that. I don't want to be in a situation where I have to carry so much of the load. So again, my question to you guys is, what kind of fathers did you have growing up as far as the financial contribution? Did your mom carry most of that load? Was it 50-50, or did your father carry most of it?
I can speak on that. I grew up in a house. I was raised by my grandparents, with both of them. And my grandmother was a nurse. And my grandfather worked 2 jobs. So when he brought his paycheck home, he handed it over to her. And she took care of all the bills, as well as taking care of all the kids, the household stuff. I would play my part as a kid, but she took care of everything. I mean, and he had access to the bank account, so if he wanted to get the money, he can. But he handed over that paycheck. She took care of all the bills, the mortgage, the car notes, insurance, all that stuff, and she took care of him as well, as far as like ironing his uniforms and stuff like that. So all he had to do was come home and relax. So it did play a part in how I run my household. I take care of the bills. I do everything. I'm the mom, I'm the housekeeper, all that stuff. I am the soccer mom. I'm all that. And my husband pitches in where he can, but for the most part, I'm running the household.
Go ahead, Javier. You want to jump in there?
Yeah. So in my household, my uncle, and aunt raised me. So my uncle, and they met in the projects. They met in Sunnydale, and then they started a business together. They started a security company, and they made like multi-million-dollars. And my uncle was really good, still to this day. Is really amazing with that. So I seen him be a good provider, but they also worked together. So it wasn't like he predominantly brought home all the money. Yes, he was like the architect and the kind of, guy on the floor, but my aunt was really behind the scenes holding it down and really doing her part. So I've seen generational wealth. And then on my father brought my whole family out of the projects. He worked for Bank of America and for 20 years. And so he brought literally most of my family brought us to Lakeview, but it basically brought us from the projects into housing. So I've seen a lot of providers between men on my side of the family, and also on my Latino side, where we have people doing very well on both sides. So I've seen a pretty good family unit for the most part.
Well, I would say in my household, the father who raised me, he made more money than my mother did. And, they both worked. My mother worked for the government, and my father worked for the city public utilities. And, he made more money because of what he was doing. And I'm going to be honest, he was a man. John, you said something, and God bless you, but I'm going to say, what you're talking about is reflective about the people you hang around. That doesn't mean that it's more real. If you're hanging around brothers who say that their women are making more money, that says something about the brothers you're hanging out with. I want to see what you are offering as far as the data, because what I just looked at, it doesn't support what you're saying. And I think it's important that we pay attention to those things, because I think that we're told things, and we're told things to create, as Barry was saying, rifts in our relationships. right? And this idea, and I hear this from Black men a lot, it's almost like Black men resent Black women because they think that Black women make more money, when really the data shows that that's not true.
Well, I want to ask you ladies this. Out of all of the people that you've been dating or you've been interacting with, how many of you guys make more or less than the person that you're dating?
I make more than my husband, and it's not a
Danielle,
problem.
I'm not saying it's a problem. I'm just
Yeah.
asking you three from your experiences. Danielle, people you've dated, have they made more money than you, or you've been the breadwinner?
I'll be honest. When it lasts, and it's not just, I mean, when it's just dating, how long does that last? Don't last too long. Well, there's a date in dating. Let me say relationship. Let me say people that I've been in a relationship with. The longest relationship I've been with, I believe he did make more money, but it wasn't necessarily throughout the entirety of the relationship. We kind of started out on the same level. We were young in our 20s. We started out off probably maybe making around the same amount. But what I saw in him is so much potential and drive. So when I met him, he had 2 degrees. He was going for his third. And after he got it, yeah, he went ahead, bought a home and did a lot of wonderful things because he was getting his money. But throughout the time, he did lose a job at one point. And I hung in there. I stuck around and supported because you know what? When I was with him, I never had to worry about anything. I never had to pay for anything when we went out. So, and that was in the beginning. So when we were in a relationship, hey, I didn't mind paying for the groceries, cooking breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Not an issue because you always took care of me when we go out. So we supported each other in that way. But I will say, most of the time, when things were, he's made more. So there was those moments where he would have lost a job, got unemployment, but got back on his feet and handled business.
Sounds like he was in the construction industry, Danielle.
Not at all. Not at all. Nope. He wasn't. Nope. Nothing wrong with construction workers.
That was just a joke from last week that you said last week.
That's all. Wrong with it, but he wasn't a construction worker.
All right, Javier, you want to jump in there? I got a question that somebody sent me through text, and they were saying, this is for everybody. Is love enough to make you settle down? And what's the point of a relationship once you pass children and your first marriage? Is love enough?
Well, hey, I'll just say this, man. The women I know in the Bay Area, again, that I know, are doing very well for themselves. I gotta admit, and there's a lot of brothers I know too. A lot of I'm in the nonprofit world, right? So I know a lot of EDs, a lot of just random folks. I mean, folks are doing good for themselves. You know what I mean? Sisters have definitely, the data is true about the Black women are the smartest minority group in the country. So that definitely that should show in their earnings. We still have a long way to go in terms of equity balance between men and women, but I see a lot of sisters holding it down, doing very well. They're very modest and humble about it. They're not like out here flossing, but they do very well for themselves. They have a lot of responsibility that they hold down. And I see a lot with a lot of brothers too. This is a generation of entrepreneurs that's coming up, this before and coming up. So I think it's just an amazing time to be Black and to be making money and creating generational wealth for long-term grandkids, whatever. And then when you say love, is it enough? I think love plus consistency. I think people forget that the way you spell love is WORK. And if you ain't got work behind the love, then it ain't love. It's just a broad statement. There has to be some inertia behind it. There has to be some momentum to sustain love, because it's not enough to just be like, I'm in love. No, love is like an engine. It has to be cleaned and filtered out and revamped. So love, the word love is not enough. Absolutely not.
So to Keisha's point, if we get into this point where men are making more money than women, everybody's doing good financially, then what is the problem with this so-called dating that's going on now in this Bay Area or around this globe, right? Because we hear a lot of women complaining that dating is crap, right? These valued men that they're looking for are not there. So if the money is there, and we start off, the number one thing was finance. If the money is there between both parties, why are we not connecting? Because that's what I want to hone in is why are we not connecting and why are we not building these relationships that should be phenomenal? If we have the money, we have the time, what's the problem then? Because I'm trying to find out what's the problem. Because I hear women, they saying all of these things about men and dating and this sucks and there's
You
not
know,
availability. Do we need to change the dating realm? Is it the high character? Because I know we talk about money a lot, and I think it's the character and the morals that's missing out in a lot of it. But how do we get there? Because we have to get there because again, there's a problem and we have to figure out what is it. It is more than just the money because if everybody's saying that men make more money, we're doing good financially, we at a good place, something's missing because we're still not connected. We have to figure out what's the issue.
you remember when you were a kid, we were kids, and we would. I know I used to do this sometimes. I would play office, and I would sit down with a bunch of newspaper and a pen or marker or something. I would just scribble on them like I was signing my signature because I would watch my great grandmother do that at City Hall. She would just so I would sit there and I would just all day pretending like I was her. Well, we have a lot of people that do that with relationships. They look at a relationship or they see somebody and they're like, "Ooh, I gotta have that," and but they don't know what it took to get there. You know what I mean? They don't know what they're signing up for. Um, and with some people having good intentions and some people having a preconceived, notion of what a relationship should be before even communicating that with the person with only good intentions is being set up and they don't know it. The person that has these preconceived notions, maybe they're setting up the other person and don't know it, maybe they do know it. But if we have conditions before getting into a relationship or to get into a relationship, we have to let that be known up front so that somebody doesn't walk in with pure intentions and with love on the heart or on the brain, but then they're walking into a plantation. Nah, bro, you got to get up and go to work. You got to have a hustle and a job to keep up with, kind of thing. So I think it's just about communication, intentions, and no, love is definitely not enough in this day and age.
Can I say
So would you guys say that because I keep hearing mental health and communication, is it fair to say part of our dating that needs to go moving forward is both parties need to seek therapy, relationship therapy, or relationship coaching or something? I mean, is that something that we need to implement in our dating in 2021?
it could be, depending on the person's baggage, but can I just go back to saying, let's go back to the dating part. It's hard to just get a date now, like to even start there. Like, I wish I could just continue, but it's like the communication, someone keeps bringing that up. The texting thing. I feel like our generation has gotten, well, let me not say generation. I get maybe so, but communication is getting worse with just texting and just people, and it's even worse during COVID, right? But man, when you just from the first time I'll give you an example. A guy had sent me a text saying, "Hello, Queen, how you doing?" Okay, hi, how are you doing today? Hey, Queen, hey, and it was just like, where is this going? Like, it was just flat, it was dry. And I'm thinking to myself, just pick up the phone. We got off the dating apps. You asked me for my number. Now call me. Why are we going back and forth? Hi, emojis. So just that, number one. The other thing is like time. A lot of people want to date and they want a relationship, but do you have the time? Are you too busy? Are you overworked? Can you ask me out on a date? Let's go. And, and just let's take it from there. A lot of guys I've heard on just different social media platforms, they don't want to ask a woman out on a date because sometimes it goes back to, well, who's paying and where we go. It's just like, oh man. So it's like can we get a date even? That's even hard. You guys share me your experience. I'm talking too much.
Well, I think that's a good point, but I mean, I also understand, like, I talked about it last week. This movement has changed, right? Before all of this stuff was going on, the all these movements, right? Um, Men used to be able to approach women, right? And then it's like you can't even approach women. So you could work in a large company with thousands and thousands of employees, and you can't even approach women at work because if you say something, oh, he's sexually harassing me. Or it could be anything, right? You could say good morning wrong, and that could be problems, right? So that kind of eliminated a lot of dating in that network, right? Which we all recommend that it's not okay to date in the workplace anyway, right? But that's just one part, right? Then we have this other movement where we can't even approach our sisters because then we got all this attitude, and I don't even want to deal with the attitude. A lot of brothers don't even want to deal with the attitude. If I say, hey, how you doing? Good looking, and I got to get I'm busy, I'm taking, it's just drama, right? So it's like, this is what I'm talking about, women being open. See, y'all want all of this, but y'all have to be willing to be open to receive it, right? So what ends up happening is you might have eyes for this girl or she might have eyes for you, but 9 times out of 10, that connection don't have because all the barriers that have been put into place, right? A guy feel like if I say something to her, it's too much, right? Then as men, we got to deal with the other stuff. Since we talking about a lot of the men's issues today, I'm going to get Javier and them worked up so we can get this thing going. But on the online dating or any dating, when it comes to trying to engage with the women, right? Now, you a brother, you trying to date, you're trying to meet people. Now we got to deal with, if we talk to you, women, they have to do uh what is it? They Equifax, they got to check everything, right? So now this brother might be trying to date you, but now this woman taking all your information, like, oh, putting them in groups like, sisters, this your man, right? So it affects us in another way, right? So this is like, you don't want to really say nothing to nobody because you got all these different layers of misunderstanding. Then it's like, not because it's trying to be something that's hidden. It's just like, why everything got to be out there? Now it's like, I got to be very discreet on who I'm trying to talk to because now you're trying to blast me publicly to be like, oh, he tried to talk to me. Like, why do we have all that? Why you can't just accept it? So then brothers like another way, they don't want to talk. So now everybody turned into this online dating behind the scenes where they ain't seen and they just sending out messages. So you guys have to be open and available as well, right? I feel like women, when you want to date, you want men to approach you, be approachable. And brothers, when a sister tell you she has a man and she's not interested, you have to be man enough to just walk, say, hey, sis, thank you, have a blessed day, you looking beautiful, and keep it moving, right? So it's a little bit of both, but I think to have a healthy a dating experience, I talked about it last week. It's definitely the introduction. And as men, we don't want to go on a date and hear 51 questions on the first date. I don't even know if I want to come back on the second date. Don't bore me out with 21. It is and this. Like, hold on. Let's get a couple dates in and start getting into those details. Today, I just want to enjoy my dinner, enjoy my energy with you. Let's have a few conversations. Maybe we can touch on a few things that's going to bring us together. But I don't want to sit here on my first date and get grinded out with 101 questions on the first date. I just don't. Am I
I,
off base? Am I off base, Barry?
Go ahead,
I,
B.
I think, man, I think what we're hitting around and not really just coming out and saying is that we have dealt, or men have dealt, good men have dealt with toxic women, and it's affected us in a way to where now we don't know what to do. We don't know how to say hi. We don't know how to keep a relationship going. We don't know if we should get a raise or propose. Goddamn, stop making it hard on the man to just love and be in the family and be in the house. If it's that difficult for us to be with you as a black woman, imagine how it is just for us to make it and to come home and be present. Like, that takes a lot. We need to come home and feel love. We need to come home to a soft place. We don't want to come home and then be on Judge Judy or be on Love and Hip Hop. We need affection. A lot of us have been scarred, like the sisters were saying earlier, by our childhood or by relationships in our youth. And don't get it twisted, domestic violence is happening amongst teenagers and preteens too. So we have a lot of healing that we got to do before we even think about jumping into a relationship, before we even ask the question, how much money do you make? We need to ask the question, who hurt you? How did you heal from that? How can and if you're at a point where you're in a relationship with somebody and you're recognizing these red flags, just stop what you're doing. Don't even worry about the relationship. You got to invest in that person. And since it is not weak of a man to admit that he does not know which way is up, it's not weak. It's hard for us out here, man, to see our brothers getting murdered. And what's to stop somebody from murdering us? And I know y'all know that feeling. I'm not saying y'all don't. I'm just saying the pressures of us that just to try to make it home and then to deal with things that we. So invest in that man. If he's worth it, invest in him, because you're gonna see a return on your investment in a good man. Trust me.
Yo, yeah. B. So, hey, there's this part in Roots, right? In the beginning of Roots, it's amazing where they take the young man and they're doing this rites of passage ceremony, right? And the chief, the elder, is like, he's talking to him. He's like, you can't get to certain levels of manhood till you meet these certain bars. Shout out to Dr. Marshall. He teaches this in his Alive and Free workshop. But there's a part where he says we don't even let weak people breed in our community. Like, it was so intentional in the community that they cultivated that you could even breathe with somebody unless y'all was on the right mental plane and saw the longitude and the latitude and longitude of the community. And I feel like even now, again, people have the freedom and willingness to do whatever, but I think it is important that you do have a lot of safety amongst people, right? Like, legitly, like, Barry's a brother of mine, right? So if I am dating someone and I get to a certain point, hey, B, I'd like for you to meet her or my community. Man, what do you think? Since you know me, what are some things that already I could like come to the table and have to deal with because you know me, right? And this person is getting to know me. And I think there is safety in community, right? There's a saying that we heal in community and we die in isolation. And it's a lot of us, unfortunately, a lot of our community, we do a lot of creeping and do a lot of emotional decisions. And then, pow, here we go. We have issues, you know what I mean? Versus if we did things within communities and it had dope infrastructures that we can make better decisions with our mates, with ourselves, with our futures. I think we have to go back to that, man. I know I'm doing that. Like, I ain't making no move long-term unless they meet Barry, right? Unless they meet my pastor Marquise, they meet Kirk Davis, they meet all the sisters in my life too. Because if I leave the room and they get to like hang out with her, they will tell me honestly as my collective homegirls, hey, she's a good one. We like this about her. She will compliment you, and vice versa. If I went and met her uncles, like that kind of stuff is gone, and now it's just impulsive decision. Yeah, let's get a pop in. We have 4,000 mutual people on Instagram. We got to be compatible. Nah, hell nah. And then I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna stir the John. This one's for you, man. I'm gonna stir the hornet's nest a little bit. When it comes to social cues with men and women, I am lost nowadays on even knowing that women like me or not. This shit is so confusing, man. Like, women I've dated, like, they don't even know. I know, but they don't know. Like, and how I've seen it, and God bless them. Like, if I was to do this to a woman, I'd be in freaking jail. Women, y'all putting your hands on a brother's shoulder, that little massage on the rotator cuff or like the handle. I'm like, yo, hey, that's kind of crossing the line right there. But like, and I have to eventually bring it out. Like, you keep doing that, right? You keep like inching in on me. And now if I did it as a man, it'd be, I'm in jail. You know what I mean? I'm on lists and all that kind of stuff. So there's a double standard. Doesn't mean I don't like it, but I just want to call it out because it is a double standard in dating and getting to know people. I'm just saying.
Definitely a double standard. I mean, again, there is a line of safety, but then, like you said, that's what holds brothers back. And you hear women saying, "Well, men are not affectionate; they're not in tune with their emotions," and a lot of it is because systematically, all of the issues keep us from being our authentic self. I mean, I believe off energies. If it's energies, it's there. If it's not, it ain't. But again, Javier, you can't take your cues from everybody. Because a lot of these sisters is trauma bonding, you know what I mean? So you don't really want to get your information sometimes from some of these people, man. You got to go off the vibe of what you got, what you're feeling with that person. Because I'm telling you, it's a lot of people who got their own little sick trauma bonding issues. They get together and then they'll paint you out to be a bad person. And it's just not what it is, right? And a lot of time it is failed communication. But when you ladies get it, brothers, you get it. When it's straight, you got to accept it. And I think sometimes our sisters and our brothers, when it's somebody we like and the other person really don't like them, we don't listen. We just like what we like and we bypass the communication of where they are and what place they in. And then it causes confusion and everybody's mad because they didn't get what they want. And then now this person has to be a bad person. So I think it's a lot of that. I mean, that was a good point you brought, but it is hard. And I hope that the sisters understand that. It's like brothers is put in between these walls and these obstacles to really approach date and really give you guys that experience that you want because of all the things. But I mean, moving forward, you just got to do what you got to do,
I want to jump in, and I appreciate what everyone is saying. This is a good use of my Sunday afternoon. To get to a couple of things, one thing you said earlier, John, is, should everybody do some kind of therapy or some kind of coaching or whatnot? I would say, fuck yes. Not kind of, absolutely. Right. There was a time, to speak to what Javier is talking about, where, they still do it in the Catholic Church. You can't get married unless you do counseling. If you're a part of a church group, right, you can't get married unless you do counseling so that you can deal with those certain issues to get you prepared to be in the relationship. And I love what you shared, the anecdote from Roots, because that's absolutely true. There are a lot of people, you have absolutely no business laying down with somebody. You are not mentally at the place that you can deal with the power and the energy that sex is, right? Everyone knows this. The sex will have you thinking crazy things, right? It's because that's what it's supposed to do. It's powerful. It literally is human beings exercising our God power, right? Two people get together and they create another human being. That's godly. That's very powerful, and people are so loose with it. I would say that they're irresponsible about it, and then they wonder why relationships seem to go haywire because you're not being responsible for something that's really powerful. There was a question that was said earlier about, is love is enough? I agree. I do not think love is enough because I love a lot of people, and it doesn't mean I'm going to commit to them. I think that what makes relationships work are commitments, right? The people who I am committed to are people who, when they have a bad day or they get on my last damn nerve, they still have a shot with me, right? But if there's no commitment, then no, you need to kick rocks, right? And I think that that's the missing component, is that people don't actually commit to other people. They don't commit to relationships, because I heard Barry say this, heard Javier say this, you have to make an investment, and an investment is a commitment, right? And anyone who does investments, right? People who do financial investments, this. You don't make a financial investment before you actually understand how the business works. You don't make a financial investment until you see what the profitability margins look like. You don't make an investment in, you don't make an investment unless you actually understand how things work. And anyone who does investments still, you usually look at the backwards trend, how things were happening, how they performed in the past, to decide if you were going to invest in a stock or a business or anything like that. Same thing in relationships, right? People get into relationships and they don't do the legwork. They don't actually understand the investment as a human being that they're investing themselves into. And then they wonder why things go haywire and it's a big old hot ass mess. But I think, to get back to the responsibility and the commitment, I think in dating, because, I've been doing the dating thing too. So I hear you, Danielle. And you get the random text and whatnot, you got to take it back to what, Mama Maya Angelou said: when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. If someone's going to show up and they just text you and you said, call me, that means that they're not going to listen to you, right? They're telling you, I'm not going to listen to what you say you want. And so if you get in a relationship with me, you need to look forward to not having what you want in the relationship. People leave you clues about who they are. And I think a lot of people don't understand is that when you speak, you are telling people what your mental state is like. So the more that you talk and the more that you spend time getting to know, where someone's head is, it will tell you what you have to look forward to in a relationship, I think.
So I guess the question is, when do we have this conversation of therapy? Is it the first 3 months, the first 6 months? I mean, when do we have this conversation of, hey, I like you, you like me. Let's go to counseling. Let's have a therapist. Like, when does this conversation happen? Anybody can give me the feedback, because I'm gonna recommend this to my friend. Hey, take her to counseling. Go take her to counseling and figure out what's going on.
I wouldn't if things were going good with someone I was talking to, I wouldn't necessarily recommend therapy until like maybe we're thinking about getting married, and then we'll go to marriage counseling, that kind of therapy. But yeah, if we're dating, I assume that, hey, you straight, everything's good with you. But in order for us to get together and see if we're gonna make it down the road and if it's gonna lead to a lifetime worth of investment, yeah, I think marriage counseling is great. I want to say though, everybody's been dropping so many gems and talking great and making so many good points. I do want to speak to the approach part, because I know you brought that up, John, too, and about, like what's okay with the woman, and because when you're speaking, you're being nice, she takes it as, gets an attitude. I know for me, and I know for a lot of other women, and I've heard them say that we can tell by your hello if you're being overtly sexual, right? We know the, hey, how you doing? What's up? Or we know the just hi. You know what I'm saying? I know and I want to know generally when a man speaks to me that he's speaking to me, I mean, just because he's a nice person. I need to know that if I was 400 pounds, I would still get that hello, how are you? But we know the difference. I experienced it today. I never made any contact, just my back walking out backside, and the guy, hey, and from the back, and it's like, come on, So, if it's too overtly sexual or flirtatious, that's a turnoff for a woman. So just start off by being generally, nice and kind. If you get an attitude, that's not the sister you want. But, I think that for every woman and every man, like you said, you got to be open. For women too, we got to be open. So, we have to be able to take some risks. And the sister talked about the investment, in every investment, there's a risk in every investment. You got to be open enough to kind of take that risk and not be shot down or feel bad because it didn't work out with that person, but just be open for the next and just communicate those messages and what you want and things like that. That's it.
So is relationships, so we keep talking about partnership, we keep talking about commitment, and we talking about contract. Is marriage a contract, or is it relationships? Because I keep hearing contract. I keep hearing it's not the marriage, it's a contract. So it's like a business. And I said this like months ago in one of our relationship talks. Is it a business? Is it a contract? And people say, oh, no, but it sounds like it is. But also, Danielle, to your point, here's the deal. You can't say you're waiting to get married to get this help if the conversation is men are having all of these issues. So if it's somebody you like, you have to have the therapy conversation before the marriage to get there.
Well, when I
Explain.
got married, go ahead.
Go ahead, Brandy. Go ahead, Brandy.
No, I just wanted to say when it was time for us to get married, my preacher at the time, he didn't see that. Just looking at us as a couple, he didn't see fit that we needed counseling. And then when I go, down the line, years into our marriage, I feel like we definitely should have went to marriage counseling because our marriage has been a roller coaster. And there's certain things that he's done that, it would have been a red flag on certain incidents. Probably stuff that I've done that was a red flag for him. But I definitely think going to therapy will decide, the whole relationship. Now, going back to what Danielle said, no, 6 months down the line, no, I'm not going to ask this man if he want to go to therapy and we just dating. Now, if we, like she said, if we've had conversations about, we're starting to talk about marriage and that kind of thing, then yes, therapy is necessary. But we just dating, we just kicking it, we getting to know one another. I'm not about to ask this man, do you want to go to counseling? No, we're not going to do that. But I think taking that next step of talking about marriage and that kind of thing, yes, therapy is definitely necessary. I mean, hell, we 17 years in and we need some therapy right now. So it's definitely helpful.
Can I add something about the therapy part? because I saw a comment in there. Therapy is a what you do for yourself, right? You do it for yourself first, and if you then you do it for the relationship, if you need to do it for the relationship. I'm gonna have to disagree with what someone put in the box that praying and trusting God is gonna do it. Because here's the thing: a lot of people, the God that you serve may not be the God that actually is gonna get you in the best relationship, right? Different people are praying to different kind of gods. Some people are praying to dramatic gods who are saying, you know, this man is doing this and he's victimizing you, right? So I think it's you want to look at who you're talking to, but no, you don't necessarily have to go to a therapy. I think it was Barry, you said you have a men's circle, right? That's where you do the therapeutic work, where you have a collective of people that you know you can go to and really be tender with them. And I believe in this. Men need to have spaces where they can cry together, where they can hold one another, they can hug one another. And it's okay for them to do that. And they don't have some kind of weird homophobic fear that, you know, getting affection from other men makes, you know, says something about their sexuality. It's important that men do that. It's important that women do that for one another. It's important that people are able to go to spaces so that they can work out those things and take it back to their relationships to be stronger, so that they can show up as the person they want to be in the relationship. I just think that people they discount how important it is to invest in yourself and to invest in your own development.
I agree with you when you just said about men needing an outlet. And a lot of times you ask me, like, who do you vent to? Who do you share your personal information with? And a lot of men will say, I don't tell it to nobody. I mean, I feel like men are they shy away from being vulnerable with their homeboys. Like, you know, what do you guys talk about when you all hang out together? Are you talking about your relationship? Are you talking about, you know, intimate things with your homeboys? I mean, I know as women, we all get together and we have a full circle, and it might end up being a laughing session. Then again, it might be a crying on your shoulder type session, but we're there to comfort one another. And I think men have pushed a way of reaching out and offering that brotherhood type thing to one another.
Well, I think a lot of men too. It's hard to have that group bonding, you know, and have that man to man time. That's why a lot of time we talk about barbershop talk, because that's kind of the only time a lot of guys get to hang around. Because as we get in these relationships, you know, the sisters don't want the brothers hanging out. Y'all can't go hang out with the fellas. So, you know, a lot of that happens. I'm not saying all, but a lot of times we deal with the struggles as we try to bond as men. You know, we got to deal with a lot of, and that's why I say it's very important, this therapy talk, because the insecurities and the trust, and I've seen a lot of people talking about the insecurities and trust, right? And it's like our women has to trust the men to be around other men and not just say, oh, I don't want you to hang with him because he's single and he a hoe and he talking to everybody and you gonna do this too, right? So we have to give them their individual space as well. And that comes with trust and understanding, and just as well as men. When it comes to women, when she's around certain females or certain things, you have to, you know, understand that they have to make their own decisions. But I know it's a lot. I mean, I know it's a lot, and I see it. A lot of brothers, they can't go hang out with their brothers because the insecurities or maybe the things that they've been through in their relationship. And it's like, oh, you know, because brothers do. They do make, when they make their mistake, they gonna blame it on the brothers, and then we catch all the heat for it. So then
Either
huh?
about either that or the fear is that we'll get some kind of information that's going to help us open our eyes and get about that relationship. Like there's a lot of times where the fear is, oh shit, are y'all talking again? It's like a plantation, and it's like, no, master, we just, yeah, and then we got to play it off. No, we just getting our hair cut. Da, da, da. I was gonna say that a man will say, no, I don't talk to my boys, but if a man has a friend, he's lying. He tells his boy, he at least gets counsel in some kind of way from either his boy or some kind of outlet, whether it's movies, rap, something. Because if you don't have a father in your life or a grandfather or an older man that's giving you wisdom, you're looking for that wisdom and you're going to nominate one of your friends to be a father figure, whether they like it or not.
Yeah, and I think that's true. And then it's like if you come back home, see, because then the women, they get mad, and you come back home and your mind has shifted a little bit. Did they like, man, yeah, you over there. Every time you go out there with them, you come back acting different. So it is a thin line between it, but I think it has to happen. But
who
y'all
are
know,
these women? Who are these women that you guys are
Man,
talking
Exactly.
about?
it's
I
hella
want to
women
know.
out there, man.
As a woman, what I hear is that you guys have not been taught how to properly identify a woman that's worth your time.
No. Let me clear this up.
And that's what you're
I'm
talking about, because
I'm gonna
I
say
mean,
that
I'm
there,
over here as a woman going like, who are you talking? I don't even know who you're talking about.
sis, let me tell you something. There are women out there who are wearing real women. There are uh fuck girls out there wearing real women uniforms. They're imposters. They're setting men up saying, yes, I will give you everything you want, but really they have no direction, and the only direction they get is from the second season, the third season, or whatever reality show they perpetrating. So or whatever singer whose life they're perpetrating. You know what I mean? Like, for some reason I started seeing this trend of females doing these videos where they were like, I'm like, the fuck is that? You know what I'm saying? So one day I was lonely. I ain't gonna lie. Hit my ex-wife like, hey, send me a little video. You know what I'm saying? I ain't tripping. I'm not offending nobody. And she sent me a video. She's like, doing the same shit that the girls on Instagram do now. Look, I'm not knocking nobody, but when you are a grown woman following trends from other women who are being led by a system, look what you're doing. Look what you bringing into the home. As men, we got to do that too. We got to do that work. You know what I'm saying? So it falls on you too. If you're gonna be, if we're going into this 50-50, be on the same page as me, do the same work as me, match me on my shit, just like you're calling me on my shit. Don't be out there bringing outside shit into the home and expecting us to accept it when you didn't accept the wisdom that I'm giving you when I'm in the motherfucking home. You know what I'm saying? So there is that also.
Hey, I want to shout out real quick. So again, me and Barry know each other. There's this thing we were a part of in Oakland called a mentoring center. This is when we're in our like mid to late 20s, and it was a Barry. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was like a 36-hour retreat. So it was 12 hours a day for 3 days in a row, where they made us go deep. It was called Restoring the Kings. And I remember that conversation and that time, because that was one of the first times for me at that time as a young adult, where I'm in a room full of multi-generational Black men sharing some of the most vulnerable stuff in the world. Like I never, it took me 27, I think, to see that, where men were like crazy. And I remember, Barry, had a moment where he shared something so deep. And I've been walking with them for a couple of years, and I didn't know that, like, to the point where we just hugged them because it was so real. Like, we don't even realize as men, like, the strongholds, right? It's like the silent screams that doesn't come out, but it's in our psyche, it's in our system. And it was one of the first times that, and again, we're artists as well, right? So in order for us to reach people, we have to be emotionally available, right? We have to go these places that are extremely uncomfortable as men to be able to reach people we don't know, so they can get permission. I mean, me and Barry have traveled all across the country, doing like, theater and spoken word, to have to portray things that we want our people to have the permission to say, hey man, I feel like I've been cursed my whole life. I feel like I feel like there's things that are literally around me that I don't know how to identify. And it was a brutal experience, brutal, because it was brutal to do it, but the fruit of it was like, wow, from this point on, I can never regress. And, shout out to Brother Muntu, Brother Bayon. There were some real OGs that stood up in the gap and said, nah, man, you're not going to continue to be like your fathers in these areas. You're not going to continue to do these things. Nah, you're more than that. You're kings. This is restoring that. And so, those things aren't enough. But I remember for me and Barry, it got us closer to the point where we've been walking, almost 15 years now. From that point on, holding each other accountable, being very real with each other. And it's important to have that brother that, and we always talk about programs, right? Like they taught us in the program that we have these programs that are inputted into us that mess up our system. And then we have to account each other and call it out when we see it. And so I'm very just grateful for that, to be able to have gone through that with Barry, and to go to the marriage thing. When I think about marriage, I think about, I have the opportunity when and if I do get married, to create 1,000-year legacy if I do it right with this person. And I believe marriage, everyone's saying it's a commitment. To me, as a man of faith, it's a covenant, right? Like, I don't do this alone. Like, you don't have marriages successfully by yourself. Oh, me and my wife, we just do good together. No. You got to have a gang of other people in community that hold you together. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, it's that serious that I know that I could create Barry, he likes to be hella shy. This man is royalty in San Francisco. You know what I mean? So when I see him, I'm like, damn, I want to create a royalty like this man's a part of. You know what I mean? And I believe I can if I can get the right person to do it. But I have to continue to be the right person myself so that two rights don't make a right and not make a wrong.
And
that's
real
powerful.
quick,
Was that Nia Regal's program, the Restore the King? Naya, or is it Naya Regal? That's the program you guys referring to?
The Mentoring Center and Preservation Park in Oakland. It sounds familiar. Yeah, she might be
Okay.
part of it.
Okay. Yeah, she does something for men. I've seen her program. It's pretty good.
and real quick, to what you were saying, man, when you brought that up, bro, I couldn't even. I was trying to hold it in, man, but I flashed back to that day, and I remember that, man, because up until that point, even though there were men in my family that knew what I had gone through, up until that point, being 27, 28 years old, nobody had put their hand on my shoulder like that, man. Like that group of brothers, and I'm talking about young brothers, older brothers. They just surrendered. They stopped everything and just it changed my life, man. Like when you were a man and you're growing up, when you're a young man and you're growing up, you are trying to keep it together and you're going through these near death experiences and people falling and you kissing dead family members that got murdered and you just saw them, that kind of thing. Sometimes all you want to do is make it so that you can have a family, so that you can have the things that they didn't have, or that you could be the man that they were trying to get you to be, or to be the man that you never had for yourself. I didn't have a father that was there all the time, but I knew he loved me. He just wasn't there. So going through this, man, and having those brothers surround me like that, it changed my life because I didn't know it was okay to let it go. I thought I had to hold on to it because that's what made me a man. That's what made me strong. But it was making me somebody that was going to be impossible to deal with in a relationship, somebody that was going to be a detriment to my kids. That's who it was turning me into. And it took going through that rites of passage for me to learn how to let it go and help others let it go. So now I bring that to my kids. You know, we're doing transformational shit when they're 3 years old, 4 years old. And it's just because I don't ever want them to be in a place where they feel like they need to hold on to their trauma, where they feel like they need to hold on to their pain because it's going to make them stronger. And then carry that shit into their family and fuck up that generation. So I thank you, brother, and to the brothers that were there that day. Shout out to y'all, because that's what we need. We need that in order to break these cycles, you know?
I think that's powerful, man. I appreciate you speaking up. We are creating these safe spaces, to have these conversations. They're not easy, and they do trigger, and it brings us back to sometimes some of these dark places in our life. And just having you here, brother, to speak and be open and vulnerable to see the emotion, because sometimes these brothers in the community, they don't get to see it, but it's real life. We get impacted all the time. So I just appreciate you being open, being vulnerable to the conversation, educating and teaching the young brothers and the brothers that's watching. Because again, as men, we have been taught since a young kids, don't cry, be tough, don't be a punk, all these things that made us rough and tough on the edge. And we lost that emotional connection. And sometimes we become emotionally desensitized to the relationships, the communication, because how we was raised. And this is a start. I mean, it can happen. We are setting trends and we're doing things that is involving community and conversation because we understand here at both sides of the conversation, if you start the communication process, there is a start to that healing process because it all works with communicating, getting it off your chest. Any therapy you go to, they say you got to get it out. You got to get it out. And it starts with communication. So very powerful, Barry. I'm glad you spoke to that. And, just the brothers out there, we have to get to this place where it's okay, it's safe, it's okay to be emotional, and like Akeisha said earlier, it doesn't critique your sexual preference or anything of that nature. We just have to be open and be men. And being men, sometimes we're going to be vulnerable and emotional, and that's just powerful, my brother. I'm glad you said that. We got 30 minutes left. We're gonna heat it up a little bit. We're gonna move it
Wait,
around, Danielle.
can we take a minute though?
Yeah,
Because like something
go
really
ahead.
just happened just now, right? I can see Danielle over there. Like I want to say this to you, Barry, because I said before, what I'm looking for is a man to open up his heart, and you just did that. And you did it because you know you have your brother here, Javier, who's going to have your back, and you know that John is here giving you the platform. Like that's the stuff. And I see Danielle over there nodding, and I'm seeing some people on the comment box. But what you just demonstrated is so beautiful because what you just did is you allowed yourself to be vulnerable and just show nobody can hurt you, right? You just showed how powerful you are as a man. I'm sure you're going to get a whole bunch of people being like, honey, let me hug you. You can come over here with me, right? You're going to get that because what you did is just show us something. That's real manhood. It's so courageous, like I was saying. So I just want to thank you for, allowing us to be a part of that. Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
like to say the same thing. Yeah, Barry, thank you so much for opening up and sharing your heart. I didn't even know there's a lot of places that brothers can go to for that kind of healing. So I would like to put that information, if you can just repeat again, and Javier too, whatever is working for you guys, please let our people know, because we definitely need to be sure that we create some circles for the brothers. We have these healing circles for the women. I see it all the time, and we still got work to do. But wow, to know that we had that out there for our brothers and it worked. And again, thank you. Thank you for opening yourself, because definitely that's what a lot of women are saying they also want in relationships. They want the truth and they want you to just break it down raw, you know.
And definitely we want the support from our sisters because a lot of times when our brothers are open and vulnerable, we don't need to be bashed and we don't need to be put down. And sometimes the delivery is not always the proper etiquette. But we need to accept and love and appreciate when that man is opening up to show them that love so that they can feel like they can continue to open up and share that information. I see we got another brother coming on here. I think he was trying to get on earlier. He has some problems. Brother, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Actually, can
And
I stop you really quick, John? Can you guys just share that really quick so I can put that information in there? That healing circle, or wherever you guys went to, that retreat, or that person. Can you go ahead and just share that out real quick?
Yeah,
put it in.
I just put in the chat, but it's the Mentoring Center in Oakland. And then I put Alive and Free training in San Francisco. Dr. Marshall, what he does is tremendous. Just two amazing workshops right there.
Okay. So my brother that just came in, you haven't put your name in there. I know you was trying to get in earlier. If you could introduce yourself. I don't know how much of the conversation you heard, but I definitely would like to get your feedback on your perspective of, the dating, what you're seeing or what you're dealing with, relationships, to help the conversation. But if you could introduce yourself so we know who you are and add to the conversation.
Cool. Right on. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, cool. My name is Briante. I'm from Oakland. And shout out to Hav. He was the one that tried to get me into this. And yeah, man, I'm super late and I missed most of the conversation. So I'm actually trying my best to really like hear with some keen, listening, just to kind of see where the direction of the conversation was going. But in terms of like the whole dating and stuff, like for me, like, I mean, if I was to, I always like to start, I think some of the most powerful men are those that can be the most vulnerable and the ones that can be the most exposing of their own flaws. And so I always try to start things from that premise. And so just to kind of like expose myself, I'm 30 years old now, but for a long time, I grew up without a father in the household. And as a default, what I kind of like cleaved and clinged to was just like sexual perversion, manipulation, womanizing, and those type of things as such. And a lot of that goes on in the city and in Oakland. Like that's just kind of like how our mentality was. A lot of us kind of grew up like that, and so for me, I was very manipulative and womanizing in my youth. But it was really a deep-seated pain that was taking place in my heart, and it was some things that were unanswered in my life that really led me down that path. So for the majority of my life, I've just had a bad rep when it comes to like dating women. I had very charming ways about myself and very alluring things about myself that allow me to connect with women. And it came off very genuine for a long time. And it wasn't to say that none of those things weren't real, but there was also some twisted things going on in my heart that caused me to walk in that manner. And so for a long time, I just had like sucky relationships. Like I didn't know how to treat women. I didn't know how to respect their feelings, because one, I was so numb within myself, and then two, I was just so deeply broken and wounded from growing up without a father for most of my life, that what happened is that I had to essentially invent myself. And I think a lot of the problem in our society today is that a lot of the men or the young boys have to essentially build themselves up and invent themselves to be a certain way because they in fact don't know who they are. And it wasn't until I had like my own encounter with God and the Holy Spirit. I know some people might not believe that, but for me, like my encounter with the Holy Spirit has really kind of like changed the trajectory of my life. It doesn't mean by any shape of imagination that I'm perfect, but it just means that I now have assistance and help, and I can now draw strength from a place where I didn't have strength initially, which allows me to then allow myself to be humbled, corrected, and then taught, and then reproved in a different manner. So for many years, like I just allowed myself to like sit under the counsel of wise people and elders. And what I would do is I really just listen to the things that really like stuck out for someone like myself. A lot of the things that I dealt with, I was able to like really intake wisdom and have wisdom departed to me, so that I can walk this thing out. Because obviously, at the root of whatever it was that I was going through, I was in a search for something. So now that I'm searching for something, I'm still, making these mistakes and falling, but I'm also at the same time slowly starting to make better choices, because now I'm having the things that were missing now filling up in my heart. So I think that's just kind of like the little bit of intake that I can give at the moment, just to kind of hear what you guys got to say after that. But for many years, like I just really had a hard time seeing how to be effective in relationships, because I myself was so broken that all I know how to do was hurt other people while I was hurting.
Wow, that's pretty deep right there. That's powerful stuff. Akeisha, you want to say something?
I mean, I just appreciate where we are in the conversation now. Because one of the things that I was seeing starting to happen is a lot of like blaming, right? Like, oh, women are doing this to men and men are doing this to women. And it's not that. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. The gentleman who just walked in or who just joined us. What was your name?
So my name is Briante.
Briante, thank you.
Yeah.
Briante, thank you for what you just offered, because again, like this is the point of having this conversation. Saying that someone's doing something to you is creating yourself as a victim. And when you create yourself as a victim, what it does is that it turns somebody into your victimizer, and there's no power there, right? And what's happening right now, I really appreciate, because everyone is just saying, hey, I'm human. And I'm having a real human experience. And the thing is that everybody is going through something. I love what you shared. Everybody had something that happened to them that really hurt them. And someone put this in there, they're not damaged. Just like there's no such thing as toxic people. There are people who are irresponsible for what they do. There are people who have been deeply hurt and they haven't fully recovered. But labeling them in those ways creates them as like a thing as opposed to human beings going through a human experience. So I just, I just appreciate what everyone is sharing.
Yeah, I think that was powerful. Danielle, did you want to say something, Danielle?
No, that was great. I mean, she said it all. Taking accountability, looking into yourself,
I'm
and
sorry. Every time she spoke, I haven't been able to hear her.
oh, yes. I just want to thank you for speaking and just taking accountability for your own experiences and saying how that affected your own personal relationship. I remember myself years ago thinking, at one point, man, I don't think I have any issues. I think I'm perfect. Blah, blah, blah. And I had to go and reflect on my childhood and what it did when how it affected me that my father wasn't in the home, and what was my mindset or mentality of men, like the sister was saying about how you kind of you marry your fathers or you seek that, because a lot of time dating is psychological. It's really, really psychological, and we don't understand those things. And I had to kind of check myself going, wow, this is why I do this. And this because of this experience. And, it's only because I started looking into myself where I just became happier and I was able to just approach things differently. So I think we should, definitely be just listening to one another more and rallying into support. Thank you for brothers sharing me, where you got your healing from, because I think we can do that without being in a relationship. And I said this last week. We can get the love and nurturing we need from men and women without being in a relationship, without sleeping from anybody. I know myself, I've had brothers cry on my shoulder and we never did anything. We're just friends, just there to support each other. So I think we need to definitely start getting that help for each other and being there in that way and seeking that help in our community, and then not necessarily hopping in a relationship when we see the potential or while somebody is in their healing, but once they're ready, once that process is done, and then getting to that point and saying, yes, you're ready, I'm ready, let's make it happen.
Hey, thank you for that, D. And I just want to shout out Briante real quick too. Me and Barry are the same age. I'm a little older, a couple of days. And Briante is a little younger than us. But what I love about him being a brother who's a part of the millennial generation is that, man, this brother really, him and this girl, soon to be wife at some point. It's amazing to see him at his age, like walking the way he's walking. Like there's some grown ass men that are nowhere near yet got to that capacity of love or have allowed themselves to be that way. And seeing Briante so young living this thing out, I'm like, he'd be a perfect person for this because of everything he's been through. I mean, I know Briante since he was a teenager. Now he's, this young man, just doing amazing things, and his head's on right. He's the real deal. And it's very intentional. The brothers I hang out with, as you see right now, people in computer land, like it's intentional, right? Like I try to hang with brothers who are sharper than me. You know what I mean? And I learn a lot from these two, young and old. And so I think that's part of it also, that at the end of the day, we want to see each other happy. We want to make sure that brothers follow through. And if they got that right one, they stick with it, because we know that's an asset and not a liability when you find that right one. And we're becoming better men together. It's not by ourselves, it's together.
Facts. And also
Well
I want to
said.
shout out Briante too, man. What's going on, King? Um, Briante was there during the rites of passage. He took the rites of passage with us. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Briante, but I think you were like 16 at the time. And he did it with a few of his friends or some other young brothers in the community. And I think one or two of those brothers didn't make it to 3 days. Briante stuck it out. Not only did he stick it out, but I haven't talked to Briante since then. And to see where he is now, man, this is just a testament to what we can do as black men when we are dedicated, when we are committed to being better men and leading our communities and our families. So shout out to you, King, and everybody else. It takes a lot of work, but like my Uncle Scotty always said, and rest in peace to him, steel sharpens steel. You know what I'm saying? And I ain't no cream puff. So we can get it right together, uh, as long as we're not following those toxic models that are around us.
And I think that's the accountability part, holding each other accountable. So to my sisters out there, you hear the brother speaking. There's some work going on. We have some individuals in the community that is doing the work, trying to make this thing we call relationships and love a better place for all. So I mean, it's just good to hear it, man. It's just good to see the brothers on there. I know people are coming in chats. We still got a few minutes left, 15 minutes. If y'all got some questions y'all want to ask, go ahead. We're trying to pull this thing together on the home stretch, get these people together and make some productive relationships moving forward, especially as we continue to get through this pandemic and come out of it. There's going to be some opportunities. So, fellas, let's get the work done. Sisters, let's get the work done, because as we walk out of this pandemic, the streets is gonna be open. The clubs is gonna be open. How do we handle ourselves to make sure that as we start to unite, we do it in the righteous way with no fighting, no gender war, all love, all perspectives. That's gonna work for us to make things better. So I'm gonna just keep going, pass it on. 15 minutes left, you guys. We're getting down to the home stretch, but just want to leave it open. If anybody have anything they want to bring out, this is the time to do it. Speak to the people.
John, listen, we got to match some folks. You know some good men. You know a few good men. I know a few good women. Let's make it happen. Let's do it.
And I'm glad you said that, because here are both sides of the conversation. We are in communication. Danielle presented the idea of doing a speed dating. It won't be a live webinar, but we definitely going to set up some ways to connect people in the Bay Area here and beyond. But that's something that we're going to be putting together. So look forward to that, because I think it is a good idea to bring Hill people together, people who are willing to do the work, to have an opportunity to interact and meet each other. And that's something that we're going to be putting out in the future. So looking forward to the both sides of the conversation. Speed dating with Danielle, it should be phenomenal. And we're going to try to put this thing together and get some brothers and sisters around the Bay Area to come together and make this thing that we call love, black love, brown love, possible and a reality. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
I have a question. I started to try to think about some questions, and I love that, Danielle. Thank you for thinking of doing the speed dating. This is something that's been on my mind. So since we're here, I'm curious to ask you men what you think about this. Do you think that sometimes Black men need Black women to be subordinate because Black men are subordinated by racism in our society? Or said differently, do you need to dominate over women because you're dominated over by this white supremacist society? What do y'all think about
I would.
I,
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
I love the fact that you're asking this question, because I grew up with men uh, who, in their relationships, were dominant over the women, and I think specifically chose not to go after Black women because they were raised by Black women and they knew that they couldn't dominate a Black woman. Me myself, I did not want a weak woman. I don't want a woman who wants me to be her daddy, because I don't want to raise a little girl. And I don't want a woman that's going to depend on me to take care of her, because this should be teamwork. I got shit I'm trying to take care of, and I'm not trying to raise a little girl. So, dominating, no, I don't want to dominate, because I don't want anybody to dominate my daughter. I don't want my daughter to grow up thinking I need to be submissive or a pincushion for this man who can't communicate, or that's how no, I don't want that for my child. I don't want that for my boys. I have two boys and a girl, and for them to dominate, it takes energy. It takes so much to do that. I know, because I tried to do it at one point in a toxic relationship. You can't. Some men are built like that. I think wired like that for that toxic shit. I think when you gotta be dominant, it's a gateway for toxicity, is what I'm trying to say.
But I wonder about what you think about this part. It's that, like, again, I'm not a fan of calling people toxic. I'm just not. I think that it's unfair, because if people are showing up as toxic, it's because something happened to them, right? And it created them like that. But I wonder, what do you think about the part that people who do show up like that, they show up like that because they feel like they need it because it's happening to them?
Oh, is that for me? I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Um, I'm sorry. Can you repeat that one more time?
Is my sound okay? Is my sound all messed up? Do I need to turn up my
No,
mic? Okay.
mine was. I'm sorry.
Okay. Um, I said, what do you think about this part, right? Because I had said I don't necessarily believe that people are toxic. I think that people show up as toxic because something happened to them, right? Dee was saying this, and even Briante was saying this. It was because things in your childhood had you showing up in these ways that would, characterize you as toxic. But the people who do show up in those ways, right, toxic ways, as you put it, do you think that they do it because they need to, because the society is bringing it on them? What do you think about that?
Yes, hell yes. Okay, so I don't want to label everybody and be, what did they say? Is you speak in general. I don't want to group everybody in, but I will say that I have seen a lot of instances where the men are bringing in toxic things to the relationship because they think that you break a woman down mentally by putting more stress on her, by confusing her and by throwing more at her unnecessarily, you can break her down. And the reason you want to break a woman down is because you can manipulate them and get away with more shit. So if now if a woman has dealt with that kind of man, right? Now she goes on and she meets this other man, and he's Javier. Javier is coming in with love on his heart, and he's trying to start a family. She's gone through this. Now with her, she's gonna be like, look, I'm not taking no shit. I'm not taking care of no man. I'm Everything that she went through in that past relationship, she's bringing to Javier. This is not what I'm dealing with, right? Now that's with clear communication. This is what a healthy relationship looks like. Now, unfortunately, the reality is that we don't communicate that shit. We don't talk about how we've been affected in this past relationship, and this is how we're bringing it into this relationship. We don't talk like that. That doesn't even come up. That's why I think before you have sex with somebody, you should probably go get some counseling I'm not counseling, but you should probably talk to somebody with that person just so that you can have a way into those depths of that person. If you don't know how to access it yourself, you need some help because you got to know what you're signing up for. That person could be bringing toxic into the relationship, not necessarily from their past, but from their environment or from the things that they listen to or watch. You know what I'm saying? So we just got to be cautious because, like I said, there's a lot of women out there, men too, that are wearing the uniforms of good men and women, but they're imposters.
So I just want us to be careful on the wording, because everybody has a different or a different definition that they pull out of these words. When I think of dominating or dominated, I'm coming from the perspective of to exert supreme determining guidance, leadership, right? Because women say they want to be led. So you want to dominate men. So that's what I'm saying. Like, we got to be careful with the word plan because we hear women say we want a man to lead us in the security. That's going to come from a dominating force. So we just have to be careful. Like, it could be definitely pulled in as a negative thing, or it could be utilized as a powerful, positive thing. I mean, it's the same thing with submission. Most women here obey. I got to be told what to do, and that's not really what it is. But that's what they they grab to that, right? So when I hear women talking about they want to be leading, I want a man to be able to tell me and show me and teach me. You're asking somebody to dominate you. So I could be way off, but that's just my thing. I mean, I'm just because I don't look at all of the other trying to be, superior over and ruler. No, it's more of the guidance and the leadership. So yes,
And that's the language I think you should use, John, because I hear what you're saying, but that's what I someone to kind of lead and take the lead. And sometimes people are looking for that love maybe that they never had. Once again, going back to if you're raised in a single parent household where your mother was in control of everything and you don't want your relationship to show up like that, you might be seeking a man to kind of take the lead. But going back to what we talked about last week, if these men are also raised in these single parent homes, they don't necessarily know how to do that, right? Because they're used to that woman taking that role. But I would say in a relationship, there is a sliding scale, and somebody doesn't necessarily need to take the lead all the time. You got to know when to kind of change roles and switch things up. I do also want to say I have a friend that wants to get into dominatrix, and she was doing some research and she found out that it turns out to be like, when the male that wants to be dominated by the female dominatrix, it's healing for him some way and some sort of psychologically. And I remember I was telling her about this lady that I knew who was, had to take the lead. She was very controlling, and she goes, oh, she needs to be a mistress and have, a man dominate over her or something like that in that realm. And maybe that'll help with that. So, some people see that, healing for those peoples in those situations. But I still say sometimes, even when a woman says, I want a man to take the lead, I think there should be room for a sliding scale, because oftentimes, sometimes you see or hear about that alpha male, as you say, or how you describe it, John, and that man taking the lead. And a lot of women feel like, wow, he doesn't have a heart. He's not genuine. He's not compassionate. A lot of men have those qualities, but they lack other qualities, so there needs to be a balance somewhere, and there needs to be room for the scales to switch at times when need be.
I would have to agree, but yeah, I would say be open to it. I don't know a lot of men that want to be dominated by their women, so that's something interesting. I got to look into this culture of
But here's my question. But John, my question wasn't about women dominating men. My question was, do men need to dominate their women? That was my question. Because they're dominated by our society. That's my question.
I wanted to insert something.
I'm gonna say yes. I'm dominating my woman.
I was gonna say, I think, and that's why I kind of mentioned before about like my past and exposing myself, because I think that men and women both inherently have something innately in their genes and just like innately in their genetic makeup. But the thing is that the reason why I had exposed my past as a child is because as I grew up, I had things that were rightly, divinely given to me by God that manifested itself in a very twisted manner because of the lack of what was missing before me. You know what I'm saying? And so as a result, like I was saying, I was doing things from a place of like, oh, because society tells me this is how a man should be. I'm going to operate based on what this world standard is telling me a man should be. And so it wasn't until things kind of really got reconstructed from all that discombobulation in my life that I was able to now see a sense of myself to where, okay, yeah, like as a man, I should lead my woman, but I shouldn't abuse that authority. You know what I'm saying? As a man, I should be able to like, because I feel like this, like a great man is a very well-rounded man. So it's almost like, put it like this, like a single mother can't teach a son how to become a man, but a single mother could show a man, a single mother can show her child who's developing into a man how to treat a woman. You see what I'm saying? In the same manner in which like a father can't really show a daughter how to be a woman, but he can show her how to expect to be treated by a man. And so I look at it from that basis of like, we have the capacity to really understand, like we're not so different that we can't relate to each other. You know what I'm saying? Like me as a man, like I'm not so different than my woman that I can't relate to her. And I've always used this as a line and a means to like really open up discussion, because as a man, I look at it like this, that like men and women are not so different that they can't relate to each other. Whereas the greatest thing that a man wants from a woman is respect, and the greatest thing that a woman wants from a man is security. And I think mutually, when both of those things are met, there's a natural order that takes place. There's a natural order that takes place because both of those things are mutually being given by both parties. But it's also to show and demonstrate and to witness how effective that level of the compare and contrast of that love from two different sexes coming together to work in harmony with each other. So I think that our culture and society has really trained us to be the twisted versions of how we were originally supposed to be as men and women. And for myself as a man, I'm still unlearning a lot of those, I guess you would say, toxic behaviors, because there's a difference between having a toxic behavior you know, I would agree with I can't remember your name, but I would agree that, like, you know, no one in it of themselves are toxic. You know, I'm in the belief that every person was made in God's image. That's what we were made of, not necessarily these other names and titles that New Age thinking tries to you know, mar us with, you know. And so I just look at it from a place of you know, at the end of the day, it's like we're not so different that we can't ever understand each other, if that makes sense.
Definitely real talk. I mean, I'm open to learn. I'm open to grow. But I think, part of our conquering ourselves is also in relationships. Domination and conquering who you with ultimately brings out the submission and the different things that sometimes us men look for. It's a way you do it. It's a way you apply it. It's a way you act. But I think if we focus on ourselves and how we handle those situations, I think it's a better place for us all. And it's just all about how we do it and how we use it. I think that's really what it's about. But building love and having the things that we need is also important. And I heard you talk about giving. A lot of times we hear in this dating world, taking, everybody wants what they want, but no one's talking about giving. So I just appreciate you speaking to that today, because we all have to give something. It's not a just receive. We have to give something, and that's good energy, good vibes, good love, uh, to make this thing work. It's a two-way street, definitely. And so I just appreciate that, brother, you coming on and speaking to that. We are getting close here. We have 2 minutes left. What I would like to do is I want to give everybody an opportunity to speak to everybody, to give their closing words to the community as we close up this this 2 week thing we call relationship conversation. I think it was real. I felt it. It was so authentic to see the brothers, very powerful brother, Javier, just giving the love, giving the words, and to Akeisha, Danielle, Brandy, and just coming all together full circle with this. These conversations are going to continue here. This was just a start. We had to get some love talking and building here in this Black History Month, because we know our families have been impacted by these relationships, and that's why we wanted to have this conversation. But I'm gonna go ahead and pass it around. I'll start with you first, Barry. Give the people some closing words. Give our sisters some encouraging words as we wrap this thing up.
Thank you, brother, and thank you for this platform, and thank you guys for doing this today. I just want to say to the sisters out there, when you have a good man, nurture that man as you would want someone to nurture you, as you would want someone to nurture your sons. Nurture that man, because he is dealing with things that he probably is not bringing home, or he's probably not sharing, and that he needs that he needs that shoulder. He needs that loving embrace. And also check out the Black Man's Heart podcast on Spotify. Email us with any questions at the BMH podcast at gmail.com. And thank you, y'all. I appreciate this.
Yeah, definitely. Everybody that's speaking, if you want to give people your social media handles, how to get a hold of you, there might be some questions. Definitely put that information out there, because we are trying to connect people here at both sides of the conversation. And the men's group that you guys talked about, I know a lot of people is asking about it. I know Danielle got it in the chat, but definitely let people know how they can get a hold of you. It's very important. Javier, you up next.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you again for this, John. I'm so glad how everything turned out. This was a whole kind of vibe today. You know what I mean? I felt like peace, even though we had very like tough conversations. There was a peace here. And I believe there's a peace even in further conversations about this. I want to shout out all the folks in the chat, all of our friends who were there, Twan and Tashelle, all the homies, man. You know, a lot of us, we were speaking for them. You know what I mean? They were speaking through us. And so just shout out to everyone in the chat. I just want to say, you know, one of my favorite movies in the world is Pursuit of Happiness. One, because I was there, right, when they were shooting in 2005. They shot at my theater on 24th in York. And when you look at the story of Chris Gardner, right, it makes me sad that Tandy Newton, who played his wife, like left him, you know. And, you know, Chris Gardner winds up becoming a billionaire later in his life. And I think a lot of us, we miss out on good people because of our lack of patience sometimes, you know. And I wish that in the movie, and God knows what happened in their relationship to make her want to leave. You know what I'm saying? He probably was an a-hole and just really wasn't living his thing, but he was still on journey. He was still on track, you know what I mean, to be that man who would be an amazing stockbroker, an amazing father, who would pursue his happiness and get it. And I just pray that that we don't lose patience with each other, that we're all works in progress. We're all on our journey. We're all on our come up. You know what I'm saying? We're all we have this immeasurable force of like white households and what they're doing and what supposedly we're not doing. And we're just trying to get out of this hole that white supremacy is dug for us, you know what I mean, to fall in. And I just pray that we don't throw dirt on each other on our way up. You know what I'm saying? Even if you didn't have a great situation, man, just we're all healing. We're all coming up. And I just pray everyone here for healthy, sustainable relationships, you know, but first and foremost, that relationship with yourself and God has to be the first and foremost relationship that you have and develop and be committed and faithful to. No other relationship is not as important. I'm speaking from personal experience. But once you get that down, man, you can make some room for something amazing. And I look forward to the wedding invites from all y'all. Don't forget about me, especially you, Briante.
All right, great information. Go ahead, Danielle. Give out your closing words.
My closing words are from Shakespeare: to thy own self be true. So we have to be true and real about ourselves first. Do you know who you are? Do you know how powerful you are? You are somebody special. Carry yourself like that. And the old school golden rule I try to lead my life by is treat others the way you want to be treated. And it'll come back to you. I try to spread love in the world. I am not one of those women that has had some horrible relationship by a man that did me wrong and cheated on me. I don't have that testimony, thank God. I was true and honest to everybody I was with, and I got love back. I'm single because that's the circumstance that's presented itself right now, but it's not because somebody damaged me. And I think people need to know that too. If you're single, doesn't mean something is wrong with you. You know, sometimes it's just situations and just time doesn't match up. One thing we didn't get to talk about today, there's a lot of single people that were, you know, in relationships or maybe dated somebody and they're thinking, what's wrong with me? That person didn't want you. It doesn't mean anything was wrong with you. You know what I'm saying? It could have been something where she lives in another state and you live in another state, and that sometimes it's just circumstantial, you know? So let's not like be so hard on ourselves and stuff like that. Things will come in their timing, you know, focus on yourself and all those things you're trying to accomplish, and it's going to happen for you. And if it doesn't, just find things in the meantime to make yourself happy. Because if you're not happy because you're not in a relationship, that's a problem. Because that means that your happiness is riding on this relationship. And as long as you don't have one that's, you know, or it don't work out, you're left to nothing. You know, and it's like, no, you know, remember, always resort back to what keeps you going and moving and happy, and live in that moment and live in that space. And that's it. Y'all look out for the speed dating thing.
All right. Thank you, Danielle. Miss Akeisha, you want to go ahead and give the community some last words?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for what everyone said. I love what you shared, Barry, about, was that Javier who shared about the pursuit of happiness and the woman leaving Chris. Here's an interesting thing. Do you think he would have became that man if she didn't leave? I think that people forget that, you know, the biblical verse that's one of my favorites is trust in the Lord with all of your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all of your ways, acknowledge him and he will make your path straight. You know, Rumi has another one. It says the wound is where the light enters. That thing that hurts you is where, you know, you get your resilience from. So, you know, you could have a broken heart and think, oh, this hurts so bad. But here's the thing, when things get broken and they repair themselves, they become stronger, right? That's what happens on our bodies. Any kind of muscle or whatnot that gets torn, it gets repaired and it gets more solid. So I just think, you know, for anyone out there, just, you know, be nice to yourself. And I love what you shared, Danielle. Nothing's wrong with you because you're not partnered. You're not partnered because you're still baking in the oven, right? You're a wonderful pie, a cake, and you know you may not be fully cooked in the center. So it's fine. You know, you're still working on yourself, and really, you know, you are the hero that you're looking for. When you show up as the kind of person that you want to be with, the person comes along over and over, the kind of sister, the kind of friend, the kind of partner. When you're showing up in those ways, you naturally attract those people. And I just, want to encourage everyone out there. Like, really, nobody's out there trying to get you. For the most part, people are out there being messy and they don't know what the hell they're doing anyway. So if you could be responsible for yourself and responsible for, what you allow and the conversations that you participate in, I think that that'll make the biggest difference. I'll do a quick plug. One of the things that I do is a conversation called Safe Space to Talk About Race, where I work with people on having empowering conversations around race and racism. So I'll share the link to my next workshop. And I have a coupon code for anyone who's watching this who might want to participate to give a discount on the cost of the workshop.
Thank you. I know Mr. Young was having trouble getting back on. I think that's him. Let me see if we can get him up here. He's having some issues logging in. Let's see. Brother Young, are you there? Can you hear us? I see his signal is in the red. Wanted to hear from him, but we'll try to catch him at the end if he gets back in. I know he's having some connection issues. I can see his Wi-Fi signals down. Just want to say, thank you guys for participating, giving up this Sunday time to have this conversation. As you guys can see from the chat, people are appreciating this conversation. And I think we have to have more of these conversations to continue to heal our community, continue to bring our community together, because it starts with communication and having these difficult conversations. In our community, there's a lot of stigmas behind these type of conversations, especially when we addressing mental health and things of that nature. And I just think it's important that we have this. As you guys see, we are 100% authentic here. These are people from the community, people who are dealing with these things that we call in life everyday relationships and how to deal and do the things that we need. And it's very important. And we're going to continue these conversations here because this is what's needed. It's important. And we're going to continue pushing along with this. So our brother Barry is back. I'm going to let him give his closing words and then I'll close us out. Go ahead, brother.
Is it on? It's on me, you said?
Briante.
Yeah, Briante. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
I think, man, I wish I was able to hear most of you guys because the volume went out. But I think the best thing that I could say, just for like my people and the community of the Bay Area, and just us as in general as a people, like let's take the time to really sit and listen to each other. And make sure that we have enough emotional intelligence to really hear each other out. There's going to be disagreements and strife, and I think arguments are healthy for the fact of us being able to build upon those arguments and really knowing the heart of what's actually taking place, because it's just a miscommunication and trying to seek for more information if you're getting into an argument about something. So let's just us as a people, if we could just really take the time to allow ourselves to go through the fire and heal through those things that we tend to want to run from, allow ourselves to heal from it and use some of the tools of being slow to speak and quick to listen. Let's be slow to speak to one another and quick to listen to each other. And I think that will really, if we can create a space of being vulnerable and open, and I think a lot of healing will take place in the midst of all of that. So we all have trauma. We all have things that we've been through in our childhood that make us who we are today or how we are today. But who you are at the end of the day is so much deeper and so much more profound. And I think if we allow ourselves to really go through that fire, there will be a lot of healing that will take place. And I think there's a lot of love to be developed in the midst of that. So I'll end it with that. And I love and I respect everybody on here.
Man, thank you for that, brother. That was so powerful. Thanks for giving that community. It's a lot of love moving around. There's a lot of brothers doing work, a lot of sisters doing work. We're going to unite this and make this community thing that we call relationships and love and dating something that's real, true prosperity. We see it on TV all the time, and it seems like it's not, we can't get to it. But I think it's there. It's in us. It's in the people. It's in the communication. It's in the therapy. We're going to make this thing work. We're going to work with Danielle to get this speed dating thing going so that we can get people united. Because sometimes it just takes little efforts to get the right people connected in the room, stepping out their realm, being open to do different things. And to our sisters and brothers out there, if you heard from the panel today, I've spoke about this before. Men and women, we have to do a better job of listening to understand and not listening to respond. I think that is a big key of us developing these introductions and these conversations to make them what they are. We have to be patient and listen. And sometimes the direct response is not always it. And sometimes we have to be humble. Sometimes we have to work together. I don't really look at it as compromise. Sometimes I look at it as sometimes if we see people who has good character, good moral values, and they're in transition because in life things are always happening. Curveballs are always being thrown at us. But do you have enough love or do you have that bossness in you to be able to work with somebody and bring them up and help them achieve and work together and do amazing things? Because I think it takes teamwork to make the dream work. We can't just focus on relationship goals. Like Javier said, instead of looking at it as love, it's work. Every relationship is work. When we communicate, it's work. When we're trying to do these things to build, it takes work. And a lot of times we don't always see the results first time around. Sometimes it takes multiple times to put this work in to get the results that you are looking for. But as they said, it starts with you. Self-help is everything. Get your mind right. Take the chains off your brain and be open to the things that's coming to you, because there is a pathway that the Lord is blessing you to send you somebody that you might need in your life, but you have to be ready and open. So do the work and put the work in so that when that person does reveal itself to you, you are ready to handle that situation. That's all I can give today. The alpha male, beta male, we already know what it is. It's all about action and doing. So we just got to continue to act and do the things that we need to do to promote this love that we call relationships in our community, because we need this to have effective community to really thrive and grow, because we need to see this black love in our young babies out there. They need to understand what loves look like when they see two people interacting in a healthy manner. So I think that's a very important takeaway. So with that being said, we're going to roll into our next show this Tuesday. We have another group of young people that are coming on from 100% college prep. We are highlighting them. These are our current students that are in high school doing phenomenal things during the Zoom time. We're going to highlight them and promote them. They was patient. We had to move them around because we had an elected official and they've been waiting and they're excited to come on this Tuesday. So we're looking forward to having our young people again another week, because they need to get their praise and their homage while they're here through this pandemic, doing the amazing work that they're doing, keeping up the grades, being scholars, doing the things that people say they can't do in our community. Looking forward to having these young people. And then this Thursday, we're going to jump into our Educational Thursday segment. We have our brother from the Bay. Art Bird is going to come on and talk to us about some financial things that we need to do as we continue this series of educating and giving information to our community so that we can leave generational wealth and we can do the things that we need to build the wealth that's needed to be sustainable here in these times while we on this earth. So looking forward to that. And then the following Sunday, next Sunday, same time, 2 p.m., we are going to have another one of our elected officials come on. We're going to have Karen Fletcher. She is the chief adult probation officer of San Francisco. She's going to come on and talk with community and talk about this reentry as our brothers come home from prison, as people are going off to prison. What is adult probation doing to help our community to make it safe and make sure that the people that's reentering back in our community has appropriate and proper resources that they need to succeed and be successful, to stay out and be a part of community. So we're looking forward to that. We appreciate her giving up her time to really highlight not only herself, but the work that she's doing and making sure that our community that are affected by incarceration, the Black and brown community, understand where's the help, where's the services, where to go, and what they have for people that's transitioning from probation to freedom back in the community. So just looking forward to that. It should be a great conversation next Sunday. And then the following Sunday, we are going into a 2-week series. We're talking about prison reform, everything with reentry. So if you know anyone who has that background of reentry, talking about this prison reform, the bails, we're going to talk about all of this stuff to look at what does this reform of prison look like for us in our community. Is it eliminating the private prisons? Is it eliminating the prison structure? We're going to get into all of that. Should be some phenomenal guests coming on, and we're looking for some more panelists to add to that conversation. But that's what we have coming up on both sides of the conversation. Also, on top of the speed dating, we are going to be coming with the Healing Paint Night. that's going to be getting produced out to the community. We are going to have a healing paint night that is going to be phenomenal. It's going to have some amazing artists come on and work with people on doing some ways of using art as a way to have mental health therapy. We ain't gonna call it a sip and paint thing because we're not going to promote that. We're going to promote healing because we know that's what healing needs. But if you need to drink and sip while you paint, that's on you. But we're going to promote it as a healing night where individuals could come together and use art as therapy, because in our community we understand that the arts is part of this mental health thing that we need. So just want to put that out there. And Hob, you doing all the spoken word. Hob, but you got something you want to do? I know you got to close the spoken word right off the top. Let's go. Give me something, Hob.
Actually, Barry is since I've been sharing so much, Barry is actually really good, and so is Briante. So I'm gonna pass it to them if they want to do it.
Well, come on, both of y'all brothers. We need a spoken word to end this session with. So if y'all have something, let's see what y'all got. Barry, you want to go first, or Mr. Young, who want to go first?
I ain't got nothing.
No, show
Nothing.
them pictures. Show them the pictures, bro.
Are you talking about the art?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I could show an art piece, but he was talking about spoken word. I'm actually currently in the making. I'm finishing up this portrait that I'm working on with a brother of mine's. It's something that I've worked on last year, and I've just been so busy that I ain't had time to really finish it. But I could show it in the. I don't know if you guys can see that.
No, we definitely can see it.
Yeah, I'm doing like I'm into self portraits and pen and ink drawings and stuff. So that's kind of one of my expertise. Some of my personal interests. I'm actually currently at the Academy of Art in San Francisco, finishing up for my bachelor's degree in illustration. So this is like one of my mediums that I use to draw.
Oh, definitely, my brother. We got to connect. We got to connect with you and get you on our art and healing show, man. And you can
Oh
teach
yeah,
some of that stuff. That's what's
right
up.
on.
Barry, did you want to say some spoken words, or Javier? You got to give us one. Somebody got to give us one.
Barry,
I got a piece
come
for
on.
you, bro. Can
Hey,
y'all hear me all right?
I'm gonna see y'all later. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Akeisha. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all.
Yeah, man, I got a piece here. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So this piece is called "Miss Me." Uh,
Uh-oh, I think you broke up. You got in the bad service area. Yep, he broke up. Yep, he was doing good. He got into a bad service area. Javier, come on, give us one of a replay. Give us something good, huh?
All right, Barry's back. Okay, I'll do it. Go ahead, Barry.
Hey, Barry,
I don't
you
think
broke.
it's gonna work because I gotta switch it. I gotta switch to my notes. I don't think it'll work.
Okay.
Hey, no, do the one. I was told not to steal, not to kill.
Oh, wait. Can y'all hear me all right now?
Yeah, we can hear you better now.
All right. She told me good men seem to be something like a rarity, and then my dumb ass blessed her with a family. Granted, we lost both of our fathers and bonded through trauma, but for the life of our kids, we couldn't stay away from the drama. I mean, toxic, right? I heard that word when I was 4 years and 3 kids into it, fighting for our lives. But I hear you, though. Accept responsibility for your role. But how? When I'm literally the only one besides these kids that I can control. You see, the story about arguing with fools, I was raised on that. So how did I end up in this trap of hurt disguised as work? This trap of pain that sadly comes with each day. And she would say, miss me. So alone I sleep next to a soul I keep, and I wonder if I'm wrong for thinking of repeating the steps of my father and just getting gone. Or maybe it's better to evacuate it rather than to allow my children to see their father emasculated, right? Or is that just the father's plight? Miss me. I miss my family. I miss my babies. I miss the embrace and the company of the familiarity and the security of home.
I think we lost him again. Javier, you want to give us one? I think we lost him.
Well, that was beautiful, by the way. I was
It
like,
definitely was.
I
We
was
lost you. We
whoa,
lost you, my brother.
you had
Yeah.
me in the middle of the book and then close. Great.
We can't
Volume,
hear you. We
volume.
can't hear you. He got low service bars. I think you're in a bad spot, my brother. You're in a bad spot. That was beautiful though. That was definitely beautiful. Javier, take us out with one, Jav. We gotta let Jav take us out with one. Go ahead, Jav.
All right. All right. This will be the last one for the month. This one's called "This Is How a Killer Gets Saved," and Barry will know about this because we took this across the country. I think it's very similar. It's all good. I once knew this boy named Anthony Brandon Smith. Born May 1, 1999. Oldest child of 2. Abandoned at the age of 3. Staring 4 stories down his project window. Saw 5 bullets bully their way into his uncle's chest and crescendo with his death. This is how a killer gets made. 6 minutes past his auntie collapsed, pronounced dead of a heart attack. And after 7 days of shuffling, he's struggling at an orphanage with his god brother and his little sister, who after 8 brutal months of abuse, he finds bloody and without color. And 9 years since, as a consequence, Anthony won't be the same. He passes time playing video games, and the doctor gives him Prozac to slow down his brain. This is how a killer gets made. 10 years go by with no glimpse of love. He misses the kisses and hugs, cries himself to sleep, but is slowly growing numb. He learns addition, counting the 11 new bruises his foster father gives him, understands the language of anguish, listens as knuckles rip him, blood glistens on his young, battered skin, can't understand why he's in the hell that he's in. 12 midnight comes and he runs away with a vengeance, but after a violent instance, got Anthony serving a 13-month sentence. Juvenile hall proves to be more friendlier than home. Anthony Brandon Smith, 14 years old, full grown, now tearless. Can't recall the last time he shed his pain. Living in a foster home where they barely even know his name. Because 15 minutes in his shoes, you'll have more than the blues. Because 16 years ago, he was abandoned. Drug-addicted mother couldn't even stand him, so her sister raised him as if she made him. Uncle loved him, fed him, and bathed him. Why did them bullets have to take him? Now 17 years old, ice cold. Made a plan to take control because being overlooked in society was getting old. Temper tantrums had his lungs expanding, screaming and cursing. No one understands him. So he decided one day, I'm going to take the pain away. So he loaded, he aimed, but before he could pull the trigger, he heard someone say his name. Anthony, I love you. Anthony, I love you, son. And this is how a killer gets change. This is how a killer gets praise. This is how a killer changes his ways. This is how a killer gets saved. Because if God can turn Saul into Paul, he can do it for us all. So the next time you see a teen walking down the streets looking mean, just know that they're a crime scene that's yet to be clean. How do I know so much about Anthony? Because he's me. I was the kid that was walking down with a frown until someone said, look up, and they put on my crown. And this is how a killer got saved. What's up?
Wow, beautiful. See, for y'all that don't know, that's why Javier is the man. I mean, this brother right here is doing some phenomenal things. He got 3 or 4 phenomenal Black history, poetry, spoken words. Just a dope brother all around, just doing amazing work with our young people. Amazing work in the community. Javier, you know how I feel. Thank you, my brother, for doing the things that you do and the words that you speak, because you speak to the soul. And if you can't feel that, I don't know where you at. That is really as you gonna get it. Don't be like the ones that don't do it. Be like the ones that do it. And Javier, Barry, thank you guys for doing it. We are going to end this show today. Thank you guys for coming on. I'm looking forward to all you brothers reconnecting, because we're going to have more conversations about relationships as well as things for Black male. We're going to have a young G, OG conversation so that we can speak to our young people, bridge the gap, and help them understand the things that we need to do, and definitely to continue to keep working with them, to mold them to be the young kings that they need to be, because it takes men like us to get behind them, support them, and give them the wisdom and the information that they need to succeed. So again, thank you all for supporting us and watching us. If you want to get one of those both sides of the conversation hats, you already know it's donation based only. Send us a donation, $50, get you one of the red or black. Check us out on our website. Definitely continue to support. If you guys want to leave a donation to support to continue to grow this platform, we are in a position of transitioning, building capacity, making this platform reach all across the Bay Area and beyond to connect our people and make sure that we all have a way to have our voices heard, because we know through these conversations we can heal and we can make things happen as a community as we move together as one. So thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys this Tuesday night for another show of our Hidden Gems. Love you.